Welcome back, everyone. Today is the second day of World FTD Awareness Week, a global week of action to end FTD. All week, I'll be sharing great interviews on different aspects of FTD, and I'll share actions you can take to benefit yourself and the people around you to help advance a future free of FTD and all forms of neurodegenerative disease. The theme for today is support, focused on support for care partners and people facing FTD or any form of dementia. And I'm so grateful to be speaking again with Teepa Snow. Teepa has made it her life's mission to shed a positive light on dementia. She and her team bring their positive approach to care, focused on ways you can support people navigating dementia challenges in a more positive and respectful way. Friends and families want to help a caregiver or someone with FTD, but they often don't know what to do. And I would like for this discussion to be ideas and solutions so everyone wins. The caregiver's needs are met and they feel supported and seen, and the person with FTD is treated positively and with an acknowledgement of their needs as a person. And I would like for people looking at this journey from the outside to feel like they have ways to effectively step in. Usually what tends to happen is the friend asks what they can do to help, but that just puts another added task on a caregiver to have to dictate, then teach, and most times we just don't have the bandwidth for it. But what I know is we do need help, and we do need to learn to ask for it, because if we don't, it is not sustainable. This is a marathon and not a sprint. Teepa, I'm so happy that you can be here and joining us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. And you are so accurate in your assessment of the challenges, but also the impossibility of trying to do this alone, thinking it's too much to have people involved. But if people aren't involved well, then there's a lot of cleanup to be done. And that's not particularly helpful.
No, it's not. I mean, it really is. You do need to call in the help and the support because it's just not sustainable. So I want to get into some of these questions.
Sure.
So, okay, first question. Caregiving takes a village, yet caregivers take on too much and don't rely on their village. Why does this happen?
Well, I would say some of the challenges in taking on this role of caring is that you've had a relationship before with the human being that now has a changing brain. And part of what you're experiencing is sort of a sense of, but if I share out that there's something wrong, then people will think there's something wrong with the person or wrong with me or wrong with our relationship. And so there's this almost automatic sense of, well, we can handle this. We'll do this. We'll make sure that when the person does go out or we do anything, it's just like it's always been, or we'll try to make it like that so that nobody knows. And there's this automatic sort of secrecy thing that happens because it feels like you're cheating on your partner, on the person you care a lot about, if you share out. Well, my partner's had something happen that we don't want anybody to experience, which is they are having some neurodegeneration. And we've tried, we've looked, there's not at this point anything we can do to stop it or even to really slow it significantly for this particular thing. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that are different and some things that are still working and some things that aren't. But that's not, that piece we don't do, that last piece. That is a really hard piece for us.
Mm-hmm. So people on the outside want to help and don't know how. Usually they will tell the caregiver, anything you need, just reach out. But it's hard to know where to even start with delegating tasks out. Do you have tips, strategies, solutions for the caregivers to kind of just sort of help with this when they need to ask for help?
Yes, I do. Because I think what people say is anything you need, but then it's like, I don't even know what I need right now.
Right.
So let's put it into categories. Let's talk about what we could do in the environment to make life easier for a care family member. Like I'm living this life, but in my environment, my world, are there things in the environment you could help with that would make it easier or better for me? Like, could you come over and do something at the yard? Can you come over and do something in the house? Could you go shopping for me? Could you go? And these tasks that occur around us, but aren't intimately involved in the care, but they're part of my life. Maybe you could help that way, sort of out here somewhere. And so, is there anything I can do around the house that would be helpful to you, or around the yard, or picking and dropping off kids? Transportation kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So, that kind of category of help. So, getting the person to say, how about this kind of help, which sort of also allows me to, as a friend, to take a look and see how are things sort of going, and do I think I have capacity? To support you. How about we go out for a cup of coffee? How about if we take some time and you go get a massage? Now, for you to do that, someone will have to stay with your person. Do you have someone, or do you think I could be that person? So what did I just give you, Emma, as opposed to, I'll stay with him, or I'll go, I'll make arrangements.
You're giving a choice, right? Like, and what that care partner feels that they could do or could allow the other to do.
And so I think when we're offering support, could I support you in some way, or could I support your person? But when I sort of just jump right in, I'll stay with him, and it's like, I don't know if you know what that means. I don't know if, like, you haven't been around for a while. I'm not sure you have the skills you need for this. That might not go well. And the carer, then you're like, I don't know that I can say yes to that. And so the person who's volunteering feels like you're getting rejected because you're not aware of how much that trust has to build again, that I would have the abilities I need to do the thing I'm offering to do, because I don't maybe have those skills, because people think, oh yeah, my grandma had Alzheimer's. Well, that's super different than someone living with Lewy body dementia, or someone with frontotemporal dementia, or who has even just a primary progressive aphasia where the words are a challenge, or vascular. And so unless you know how to do that kind of thing, you can cause more trouble than you help. I'm sorry, but you really can as a helper.
I loved all the ideas of, maybe not being like that one-on-one support, but really going to the outside of, like, I can pick up a prescription for you, or let me go wash in your car and fill up the tank. Or, I think that is so helpful. And such great ideas for the caregiver to be able to, like, wrap their head around that, versus like, oh, I'm going to come and take care of your person. I think that is gold, what you've just said.
Well, and it's, and that's the tricky part, because people want to jump in the pool, and it's like, do you know how to swim? Honestly, and it's like, it's a deep pool, unfortunately, because we're at a place where this feels real different than without dementia. And I don't know what your skill is, and it matters in these situations. It really does matter, because you're not helping me. It's not skillful, sorry.
And I think, like, for a caregiver to be able to take those baby steps and to be able to delegate a couple of tasks here and there, which might then allow or give some room for the friend, to be able to come into the house and sort of dip in and out and sort of see what the dynamics are, and to sort of experience in little increments of what life sort of looks like, which then might give the caregiver some
confidence.
There you go.
In my competence.
To be able to maybe at some point to, like, okay, maybe I can go
It is.
take a walk and you can be here for 20
Maybe
minutes.
all three of us go for a walk and we
Mm.
see how that goes. And then we realize, oh, my partner only really wants to go for about 15 feet and or 20 yards. And then they want to sit and watch the dogs do that. That's when I can say, tell you what, keep walking. We're good here. And you're more likely to go, oh. And I'll go, yeah, go ahead. You keep going. If we need to, we'll catch up with you. And then I'll say, now you have your cell, right? I have mine too. If something changes, I'll give you a call. What happened to your confidence when I was able to do that?
I mean, it's shoots up. Like I feel pretty good.
Oh, because I had enough awareness to know this is going to be nerve-wracking, but you also really wanted to go for a walk.
Yeah.
And in this case, okay, well, tell you what, we're going to hang here. We'll join you, but you need the walk a lot more than I do right now. And if it's comfortable, well, try it. But I said, here's the backup plan. So you know I'm not going to keep trying to do something that's not working. We've just agreed if I run into trouble, I'm going to go to you. You're the expert. I'm the helper. And by saying that, your brain just went, oh, she gets it. Okay. Yeah, I can go for a walk then.
Yeah. I love that, Teepa. Okay, so you do a lot of work to help people better understand what the experience is like for people facing dementia. What are some things care partners, as well-meaning as we are, might overlook? What can we keep in mind to better support what our loved ones and what they might be going through?
I think one of the things that always amazes me is how poorly prepared professionals prepare family. I mean, we don't set you up for success because people say the word dementia like everybody knows what that means. And one of the things we are not good at as professionals, as a rule, to say, so what's going to happen is as this condition changes the brain, it limits how well the brain can take in data. And if we think about the ways brains take in data, it's through your eyes and your ears, and even through smell and taste and gravity and movement. So what happens is typically people's worlds start to get smaller visually because it's a lot. There's a lot to take in. And so if you stand right in front of somebody, for example, it can feel like you want to have a fight with them rather than you're trying to help them. It can feel like you're trapping them in a relationship because this is all they're taking in and you're right there. And if you simply turn your body sideways, then their brain can see, oh, no, she's not trapping me. She's here to help me. And then to recognize the value of gesturing or pointing at something rather than using a lot of words and then saying, so is that okay? It's what okay? And then you say, so what, we're going to go. Is that okay? Well, where are we going to go? And it's like, I just told you, you said it. Because getting the language in is, and so what I think is, honestly, the way that dementia is described to care partners and family members is super not helpful.
It's not helpful. It's not helpful.
We don't give people the ability to recognize, okay, so if it's this, try this. And it's like, let's try shifting a little bit. So, and show rather than say, oh, and usually it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. And you watch it and it's like, that works better. And it's like, yes, it does. But if no one gives you that when you get the diagnosis, all you get is what the horribleness of how all this is going to be, which doesn't take long to figure that out. I don't figure out, well, how are we going to live life? Because I've still got to do that. We've still got to figure out how we're going to live life because this isn't like one and done.
Yeah, I have learned so much from you, Teepa, and I think that you have been such an incredible resource, and what you and your team do is so impactful for this community. I know it has been so helpful for me because like you said, you go to a neurologist, you get a diagnosis, and they shoot, then you're out of the office with like not many resources. You don't know what dementia looks like or how it progresses, or and then you've got to go and like Google, and it's just too much. So I really do think that you are an incredible resource for people walking this journey, because you have so much to say and just such great education and things that you have taught me where I'm like, oh, how would I know? Like, how would I know that? So thank you.
And it's that idea, by having that ability, because you have an N of one. I mean, you have your one person and you're experiencing it intensely. The good news is I've been doing this a long time, like 43 years. And so I have thousands of experiences that when I start to notice patterns, yes, a unique individual, but here's a pattern I want you to look for. And it's like, yeah, that's the pattern. It's like, okay, well then let's try this. But when you're in it new, I mean, you're trying to figure things out. And if you just look in this one box marked Alzheimer's, and what you're living with is FTD, or you look in FTD and you're living with Lewy body, or you look in Lewy body and you're living with vascular, it's like, that doesn't fit. And it's like, you're right.
Yeah, like dementia is not the same across the board. And there are different variations and different symptoms and nuances. And, so you can't copy and paste,
No, it's not automatic. And so, they'll forget your name. It's like, maybe they just can't say your name, but they remember exactly who you are to them. Maybe they won't be able to figure out how to put the key in and start the car. But maybe this person will. What they can't figure out is it forward or reverse that I'm going into right there? And it's like, uh-oh, that's not good. So there's a lot of learning that you can certainly do as a care partner, but there's a lot we can help you learn so you don't have to do trial and error on so many things. And it's exhausting to trial and error and to make mistakes, and they're costly mistakes. And there's sometimes things we could shortcut and not have to go through all that for families, I think.
Well, this is a good segue into self-care for the care partners. What are some ways to incorporate self-care and a more positive approach to this journey?
So how about we start with 5 times a day on your phone, you put an alarm on that says stop and do 3 deep breaths. Stop and just breathe. Because sometimes as a care partner, you're so wrapped up in moving things around and moving things forward and trying to figure things out, you forget to breathe. Really taking a moment at least each day when you've done that breath, how am I doing? Am I here? Am I here? Or am I here? How am I feeling about myself and my world and my life? And then how's my partner doing? How's the person I care about doing? And if they're not doing well, I may need help. And so recognizing if it's not going well for them and I'm feeling frustrated, asking for help is actually one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself, to say, I don't know, I may need a break, or I may need a different set of eyes, or I may need a new situation, but I'm having trouble here. But also self-care is going, I'm feeling good. It is going well. 90% of our day is going well. And it's like, okay, that's so exciting. Tell me about the 10% when you get a good helper, because that 10%, is it neutral or is it really, really causing trouble? Because if it is, let's look at what you can do for yourself for those 10% of the day. Like, is this the really rough time? Well, self-care wise, is it time for you to step away during that time because you're so frustrated? It's like, sometimes it's important to notice, wow, I'm really frustrated about this. And it's like, maybe we should have somebody else give it a try for a bit. Because you got to take care of you. You're in it for the long haul. And So the other one I'll do, how many hours do you feel like you've been awake and how much sleep are you getting?
Who, me?
Any carer, any care provider, any person who's in this story, how well are you doing with sleep? And how well are you sleeping? Because that is a big deal. How well are you eating? How much you sort of forgetting or not doing a good job of it? And how much are you like having somebody to go talk to or going to have time to think? You know, are you doing those things regularly? You know about them, but are you doing?
Yeah, I think it's so hard to regulate sometimes, right? Really like how you're feeling, like, and I think sometimes caregivers feel so, guilty.
Guilty.
If God dare they look after themselves, you know?
Yeah.
But it's so important in order to sustain and in order, I mean, I always say this, like you have to be able to look after yourself because you can't look after the person that you love if you aren't filling yourself up. You know, how do you do that?
And if you forget that there's more in your world than, I know it feels sometimes like it's just that person, but the reality is you have other pieces. You've got to have a moment to look up and look around and go, oh, geez, I haven't even gotten to that. Oh, I totally forgot I was supposed to do this. Because you get so targeted, and that's not healthy for anyone. And so, what are you doing every day that gives you a sense of pleasure and joy? And if you tell me, so,
yeah, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if we cannot find joy or satisfaction on a daily basis, we actually cease to thrive, and we're just into survival mode. And as a care partner, as someone who wants to partner through this, you got to recognize if you're just surviving, there is no thriving. And that is so unhealthy for both parties. Let's figure out how you get something to enjoy in a day. You deserve 5 minutes a day. Honestly, please, 5 minutes at least for yourself to have something you like.
You know, Teepa, I hear this a lot. There's a lot of people out there that don't have that support in place with family, friends, a caregiver. What are your suggestions for these care partners really just manning this by themselves?
Yeah. Reach out online. Start at least online, reaching out to groups like ours or other groups that are set up to recognize the isolation and not push you past your comfort zone, but saying, we're a voice, we're a presence. And if you have us, let's try something, because we're pretty good at trying things with folks and saying, here's what I want you to try. Have your spouse come sit here for just a second, and I'm going to watch what happens. You know, let's try it and see what happens. Because sometimes people are so caught where they are that they'll go, well, he'll never do this. And then I do something like, oh, and they go, what? It's like, hooked you, didn't I? I want to show you something. Watch this. Look. Watch this. You're not going to believe this. Watch what I do. That's something, isn't it? Now watch, I can get it to go back in. Now, let me ask you, is that how you think peacocks do their tails like that? They just take them off and put them back on? Yeah. So, but I'm pretty good at catching someone's eye and getting them to truly appreciate that in that moment, I like you, I want to be with you, I'm curious, are you curious? And all of a sudden, you, the spouse, gets to go, well,
It doesn't just have to be me.
No, it doesn't just have to be you. And then we can have that conversation about, so what do you think, Emma? So when I was interacting, how did that feel? You know, what was different? So I think that's that opportunity. And I think that's online, and it's maybe 15 minutes, but it's starting to crack that shell of all aloneness. And if you want it to be someone else that's living this journey, But sometimes when you're first starting, that's a risky place to go. And I'm just going to say it can be risky because now we can both be talking about how awful it is and how terrible it is. And then both of us are like, yeah, it's terrible. It's like, oh, let's find somebody who's walked the walk and is in a different space for you to spend a little time with. And sometimes that's negotiated. And sometimes it's spontaneous. But, there's a lot of fixers out there who are going to say, oh, yeah, no, you know what I did? And this is what you should do, Emma. Those are not the recommendations I make.
Yeah. Teepa, just on this subject of support, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think could be, I don't know, just supportive to this community, to care partners, to people living with FTD or any forms of prevention?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that can be really supportive is to recognize sometimes doing things together is great, and sometimes doing things apart. And to have a community that allows that flexibility is huge. And you won't start off that way. I will guarantee you will not start that way. But ultimately, it's an important thing to have. The other thing I would mention that I think we haven't talked as much about is true respite, truly stepping away and creating a safe space for yourself, knowing that the person is getting some care. It may not be the best care. It may not be your care. It may be, we tried it out. It's okay. It's not terrific. And it's short. But during that time, truly giving yourself permission to let go of being a carer and simply be a human being for a little while. Because without it, people break themselves. And getting broken doesn't change dementia. It just breaks another human being. And that's one of the greatest concerns I have about carers who are going solo, is that in that moment, everybody thinks it's okay. But over time, there's a price that will get paid. And I don't really want people to pay it forward like that. That's not what pay it forward means in real life,
Yeah, it's one thing for the disease to take someone that you love down, but for it to take everyone else down around them, it is a family disease,
Yes.
and it is really learning how to not allow it to plow everyone else,
I mean, and we can talk about it, intellectually, but then when you think for just a second and you start to feel, it's like, yeah, it changes relationships with kids, it changes relationships with friends, and you miss things, and you don't mean to miss things, but it's consuming, and it can't be all consuming because there is one brain it is consuming, but those around will need to figure out how to make it through this and still live a life that's richer for having experienced this. It's different for having experienced this, but it's not diminishing for having experienced this, is my goal. I mean, for right now, that's my goal, that it doesn't make you less. It allows you to be more.
Beautiful. I love that. Are there things people living with dementia can do in terms of self-advocacy, to get more of their own needs met?
Yes. Oh, boy, such a good question. And I love it because early in dementia, people who have awareness, and there are a lot of people who are saying, there is something going on with me. I can't find the words I used to be able to find. It is so frustrating. And it's like, yeah. And I find that I'm really impulsive. It's crazy. I mean, I'm doing things I would never have done. And I'm so sorry after I do them, but I'm doing them. And it's like, yeah. So that's frustrating. Yeah, that's living with dementia. And it's like, oh, yeah. And it's like, yeah. So it doesn't mean you're at the end of the disease. It means you're learning to live with this condition. So let's start working on some things. How is it when you go out to restaurants and it's really loud? Oh, I don't like that. And it's like, okay, well, let's put out then that if we're going to go out and eat, we want to go someplace quiet. So why don't we try out a couple restaurants and then like make a list of here's the 3 we can go to if we're going to go out. You know, I do better in the morning. If you want to come visit me, let's plan to do stuff in the morning because by afternoon, I have a hard time. You know, so I work with people living with to start coming up with, instead of last requests or how do I want my life to end, how am I going to live my life? What would help my people, the people in my world, live life with me better? And it's like, well, let's come up with some guidelines while we're at it. I'll suggest some and you tell me if I'm on or off. And let's come up with sort of like the top 10 so that when we're in a group, only one person talk at a time. And make sure I can see and don't change subject. I mean, so those kind of game plans. And so self-advocacy is raising your hand and saying, I want to be respectful, but man, when you talk at me a lot, I really want to yell at you. It's good to know. So one sentence and pause, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have these type of guidelines on your website.
We do.
I would love that because I would love to include it at the bottom of this video.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and we're happy to sort of share out what we've learned over time with folks because people are so generous when they're living with dementia about trying to help one another. If we can catch it in a place when they have that capacity. And all too often, because we're still so uncomfortable with dementia, we don't have those support groups readily available. And yet, you know, some of our best friends are part of a group called Dementia Minds. And they are reaching out and sharing out their stories and their observations. It's out of Michigan. It's a nonprofit. And one of our folks that was active in our community opened that up. And it's by and for people living with dementia.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's so true. It's like sometimes there really isn't that in place. You know, I remember just seeing this question and, you know, as I was thinking in my head, like, you know, it really is really about the care partner setting up for the person with dementia, as opposed to like, if there is some self-awareness prior, this is.
Yeah. And early on, often, you know, as much as people say, oh, yeah, that she doesn't even know, it's like, oh, yeah, she got it. But if people find out, they're going to try to take everything. So that sense of I have to be careful how much and what I share because people would take advantage of it. And it's like, yes, that's actually accurate that people living with dementia are some of the most vulnerable human beings as far as being involved in fraud and theft and abuse of resources and abuse in general, because there's this sense of if people find this out, I've got to hide it. And so therefore, people who are not good people figure this out and take advantage. And that's scary.
That is scary. Okay, Teepa, I'm going to get into my calls of action for today. Okay, so if you're a care partner or someone living with dementia, ask someone for help and support with something today that you have learned to be able to lighten the load of this journey. If the first person you thought of isn't available, try someone else. If you're not personally impacted by FTD or any form of dementia, a simple act of care and support for someone who is can do so much. Offer to send a food delivery or drop something off at their front door. Someone may be shy about accepting your help, but you can usually find a way to offer something that they can accept and use. But Teepa, you've given so many great suggestions and ideas at the top of this interview, so use one of those. Tell others about what you are doing on social media and tag a few friends to get them involved. Visit AFTD's website to find messaging and graphics you can download and share. And if you haven't already, we encourage you to change your profile picture on social media to feature one of our campaign images. Just visit the link down below, and then you will see all the instructions to be able to show the world you care about FTD. Teepa, thank you so much. Thank you for all of your work, how you have helped, like I said, you have helped me so much. You are helping this community so much. I'm so grateful to you. I hope I don't cry. I'm getting emotional just thinking about you and just how impactful you are to this community. So I really appreciate it. There I go.
Thank you. Because what you're doing is impacting this community in ways that only you can choose to do. So thank you.